Hi, it's me, Mr. Vanderveer. How you doing? We're going to talk today about how to move from your answers to the guiding research questions over to a MEL-Con organizer. So we're going to go from just having a whole bunch of answers to questions to having actual paragraphs. 3 of them, 3 paragraphs. Hooray. So, I did give you basic main ideas for each of your paragraphs. The first one should be basically just biographical, background-y type stuff. There's only 2 F's and stuff. The second paragraph is going to be all about how our person overcame adversity, overcoming adversity. And the last paragraph, that one's going to be about why do we care about this person, or what lesson can we take away from their story. So here's all my research that I came up with for the first bunch of questions for the first paragraph. I've got my guy's name, of course, it's Michael Phelps. I've got when and where he was born, that he's known for swimming in the Olympics and winning boatloads of medals. I'm not really sure at first what I wanted to focus on for my first paragraph, because if I just throw out a whole bunch of bio stuff like Michael Phelps is a swimmer, he was born in 1985, now he's 33, it would get kind of boring. So I'm going to try to sort of make it interesting by talking about how Michael Phelps was a great swimmer starting right away at a young age, because I've got this info here about how, when he was 14, he won all that stuff and became a top 16 swimmer nationally. And then just a year later, when he was 15, he became the youngest swimmer on the U.S. Olympic team. And then when he was 16, he became a pro swimmer, youngest person ever to do that. So that's what I am going to do with my first paragraph. And I'm going to make it magically appear, boom, like that. Now, my opening sentence is pretty dull. It just says Michael Phelps is an amazing athlete. I was trying to come up with something more interesting, but my brain just wasn't working because I'm tired. So I just put in this kind of placeholder. Later, perhaps when I'm talking to a writing group, they can give me a great idea about how I can make this more creative and interesting so that my readers don't get bored right away. Now I need to transition into my first piece of evidence. I just grabbed this transition phrase "to begin with," and I got that from so many things open. Here we go. My transitions here, which I've also emailed to you. See right there, "to begin with." Again, I haven't really changed it at all. I just left it completely the way it was because I can always jazz it up later. So, to begin with, he was born on June 30th in Baltimore, Maryland. Okay, that's pretty boring. Why should we care about that, or why does this support the idea that Michael Phelps is an amazing athlete? Well, he started swimming when he was 11 years old, so he was still very young. And by 14 was a top 16 swimmer nationally, etc., etc. So I've kind of supported this boring piece of evidence with an explanation that makes it more interesting. Next, that also came from my list of transition words, right there in the middle. Next, he made it into the U.S. Olympic team when it's just 15. So I'm sort of progressing along his timeline there. And why does that matter? Well, he was the youngest male swimmer on the team in 68 years. Finally, again, this comes from our list of transition words. It's in there somewhere. And finally, I guess. He became a professional competitive swimmer at the age of 16. Who cares? Well, you should care because he was the youngest person ever to go pro. So now I've wrapped it up with a transition to my conclusion. This is where my transition for my conclusion came from. And my conclusion, Michael Phelps is one of the greatest swimmers ever. Again, kind of a lame conclusion, but it works, and I can always come up with something more interesting later. Now, on to my second paragraph. So I found out that Michael Phelps actually had ADHD, and his mom signed him up for swimming when he was 11 to try to help him focus and work towards goals Oh, and I forgot to say that ADHD is a disorder that makes it difficult for a person to pay attention and control impulsive behaviors. So your reader has to understand what their barrier was. Like if I just told you he has ADHD and you don't know what ADHD is, you'd be kind of at a loss to understand what his problem was. So anyway, I made my topic sentence pretty simple again. Michael Phelps overcame ADHD to become a great swimmer. I grabbed a transition word out of my transition list, and then I brought up that Phelps was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 11 years old. Okay, now why do we care that he had ADHD? Well, because it's a disorder that makes it difficult for a person to pay attention and control impulsive behaviors. Okay, cool. So now we understand what his problem was and why it was a problem. Now we can transition into another part of how he overcame his adversity, his barrier. Well, Phelps' mom signed him up for organized swimming. Why do we care about that? What does swimming have to do with ADHD? Well, swimming gave him an outlet for all that energy and problem with focus. I totally lost my train of thought. Swimming gave him an outlet for all that excess energy that ADHD gave him, and it also gave him goals to help focus on, because I guess focus is a problem when you have ADHD. Now, you might notice, oh my gosh, I do not have a third example yet. That's okay, I'm just going to keep trucking. I can always come back and add more. In conclusion, this transition came from my transition list again. Swimming became more than an outlet for Phelps' ADHD as he became one of the best competitive swimmers ever. I just had an idea. Here I could talk about how he's won a whole bunch of medals, even though he's got ADHD. Like I could say something about, I don't know, obviously Phelps' mom's idea worked. And then my link would be something like, Phelps has won 9 bazillion medals. It actually works pretty well because then I say, yeah, I like that. Okay. Now, in our last paragraph, we need to talk about what the lesson is that we have learned from our person. And I've decided that my paragraph is going to talk about how we can learn from Michael Phelps that a person with ADHD can still be wildly successful. So I give some examples of his success, including that he's worth $55 million. I make the point that not all amazing athletes are capable of, holding on to their money, even though they're wildly successful in terms of earning money. I thought it was really cool that when he got a $1 million bonus from Speedo, he started a foundation to help other kids get into swimming. And I make the point that we should care about that because there's no greater success than the kind that allows you to help other people. And then finally, I found out that he actually hosted Saturday Night Live back in 2008. And I point out that, hey, that means that he was like rubbing elbows with people like Tom Hanks, Ryan Reynolds, and Dwayne Johnson. I couldn't think of any other celebrities. So I wrapped it up by saying, it's clear to see, again, this came from my list of transition words, Michael Phelps became not only an amazing athlete despite his ADHD, he has also helped other people and become famous and wealthy. So there's my MEL-Con. Now, before this video gets super duper long, let me just show you what your final essay might look like if you went straight from this organizer to your essay. I'm going to talk more some other time about how you are to format it with your name and your teacher's name and your date and a title. Yes, you have to have a title. Making up titles is usually fun, so don't sweat, that, I have to have a title. Come on, man, have some fun with it. So anyway, I've got my first paragraph right here. This all just came from my MEL-Con organizer. Here's my second paragraph. Again, this all just came straight from my MEL-Con organizer. If you use this fillable one from Word, this organizer, you can just copy, Control-C does copy, by the way. Click on your Word document and hit Control-V as in Victor and paste it right in there. You just have to make sure that it doesn't end up with a weird font when you're all done. Anyway, I think that's it. I don't want to talk you to death, but hopefully this gives you an idea of how to go from your research to your paragraphs. Peace out, Cub Scouts.